Several government agencies have been flagged for serious lapses in the latest Auditor-General's report. 25 major cases were uncovered among 132 audit findings. Now, these lapses span key areas such as procurement, contract oversight, and revenue management, some of them involving millions of dollars in public funds. Among the issues identified were unaccounted visa fees, mishandled education savings, contract evaluation errors, and unreturned payments. The Auditor General's office says these findings point to weaknesses in internal controls across the public sector. It urges agencies to tighten oversight and compliance. In one particularly serious case, possible irregularities were significant enough to prompt National Water Agency PUB to make a police report. Now, police are investigating possible fraudulent quotations in a waterscape construction contract under PUB. The quotations involve additional costs billed due to changes in design or project scope. Now, these are called star rate items. The Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore was also flagged for lapses amounting to millions of dollars, as Rachel Teng reports.
Waterscapes are a common sight in Singapore. They're meant to create new community and recreational spaces. But the construction of one such $6.75 million project has come under the spotlight after a government audit uncovered possible irregularities in a contract. The AGO's report found suspicious quotes for extra work items totaling close to $150,000. PUB says it's lodged a police report and reviewed similar contracts and found no similar irregularities. It says it now has measures to manage star rate items, including evaluations and further checks before approval. Still, it says it may not be straightforward to identify irregularities immediately, especially for more complex cases or instances where signs are not obvious. It adds that it will improve officers' training so they can follow proper procurement processes. It's also so they can identify possible irregularities in the quotations for such items. The AGO also found that PUB incurred over $300,000 in additional costs to order mishandled products. It was not monitoring how much of the product it had stock of and had to pay for urgent air freight costs. PUB was also flagged for contracts that were not comprehensive enough. In one instance, this caused the agency's alert system at a water plant to be down for over a year before restoration. PUB acknowledges these lapses and says it's since enabled automated alerts and data transfer. Besides PUB, the Maritime and Port Authority was also flagged for mishandling more than $100 million. Most of it was for fees collected without a legal basis. These were fees charged for dumping excavated materials at selected sites in the sea and monitoring such acts. MPA says it will change the law to make collecting these fees legal. The AGO also found that MPA made errors in awarding tenders to manage its vessels. It paid almost $2.5 million more than it could have paid another bidder. MPA says it's since updated its tender evaluation protocols. MPA also paid $2.8 million to a contractor who did not submit its monthly maintenance reports for over 2 years. Checks by MPA show that the contractor's services were indeed delivered. It will also have measures to ensure proper checks before approving future payments.
Now let's go through some of the other key findings from the AGO report. The Economic Development Board had lapses in a tender for global media services to promote Singapore as an investment destination. The AGO found that EDB did not clarify with the tenderer on discrepancies between its bid price and supporting data submitted after the tender closed. It also awarded the tender based on a derived figure of about $11.5 million. That's around $2 million higher than the tenderer's quoted bid price. EDB says it has taken steps to rectify the lapses and will step up efforts to strengthen workflow and systems to prevent similar lapses in future. This includes enhancing a procurement checklist. One expert says checks and balances are especially important when it comes to the allocation of public resources.
If there are any instances where it may be perceived that that certain parties may get certain unfair advantage. I think it is the right thing to do to make sure that it is dealt openly, especially in procurement, when sometimes there are certain details in terms of how potential vendors interact with the service recipient, which is the public service. I think it's all the more important that the due process is seen to be just and fair for everybody.
The Education Ministry was also flagged for lapses in managing the post-secondary education account. It relied on checks by training providers and account members to ensure withdrawals were used for approved purposes. But audits found multiple withdrawals for the same cause or amounts exceeding prescribed fees. Some unused funds, totaling about $116,000, were also held for over 2 years instead of being promptly refunded to members' accounts. MOE says the provider in question has been warned and full refunds have been made to affected members. It adds that it has been tightening withdrawal processes even before the audit. Now, also flagged the Foreign Affairs Ministry in managing revenue. It did not track and account for some visa application-related fees collected overseas as government revenue. These fees were estimated at some $1 million over 2 financial years. The Law Ministry also had lapses, with money collected from liquidated companies invested in fixed deposits, even though not all the liquidators had given their consent. Still, the ministry says there was no misuse of public funds or losses arising from the investments in question. It says it has taken steps to ensure that money will not be invested if liquidators do not request for it. This includes setting up a new framework.